No, when you go to Planned Parenthood and you take the test, if it comes up positive, I think even if it comes up negative, they counsel you. But I know that they send you to one of the people that do the counseling, and like right away, right after you take the test and you find out the results, and they pretty much, they're there to talk to you about your options. And I just for whatever reasons, just didn't even consider abortion, and just knew I was not going to do adoption. Honestly, like, I don't think I looked at the other options and said, oh, this doesn't work for that reason, or this doesn't work. I think I just knew, and that's the only...
In your heart, yeah.
Yeah, I just knew that's, I knew I was going to keep the baby. It was not something I wrestled with.
And your mom, since you lived with her, she didn't have a problem with that? I mean, she wasn't like trying to, not really persuade you to take another option, but just like giving you the option. She wasn't like, hedging her bets towards another option, or...
Not too much. I mean, she did mention other options and asked me if I had thought about them. But that was pretty much the extent of it. She never said, you should do this, or you should do this, or you shouldn't do what you're doing.
Well, that's awesome in itself.
Yeah, she kind of just went along with, went along for the ride. She did what she could.
So tell us how they play a part now in your child's life.
Well, since I recently moved to Los Angeles, my mom's up here in Los Angeles, and my dad and my stepmother are still in San Diego.
Okay.
So for the past year, since I've been in Los Angeles, my mother helped. Well, initially we stayed with her, just so that it wasn't like having to look for a place from San Diego. So we stayed with her briefly and allowed it to be a stepping stone out to my own place, which that happened in a reasonable amount of time. And she also, she'll come over and spend, I can't say babysit anymore. I was going to say babysit, but since he's 13, it's not babysitting. It's kind of just hanging out with Grandma. She'll come over and hang out with him. Like if I have acting class once a week, she'll, I know she comes over and she does that, and they go to dinner and they spend their time together, and they do other things together.
Oh, that's cute. Yeah. Like they're buddies.
Yeah, they're buddies. They ride bikes together.
Do they really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, so they're good partners. Yeah.
So tell us about what your quote-unquote dream life is, like what dream you're trying to pursue and how you're going about doing it.
Well, I came here to pursue acting, but I was already pursuing it in San Diego. I took my degree from college in theater, and as well as that, I studied privately in San Diego. And I, participated in stage productions and independent films, things like that in San Diego, the things I could do from where I was at. And did focus somewhat on LA, did come up here sometimes for auditions, but it was very hard from another city. And and even being just, you think 2 hours away, it shouldn't be, but it really
Well, it's just also the inconvenience of having to drive up here 2 hours for an audition and drive back, especially if having a kid.
And not only that, with that part, I was lucky that my parents would pick him up
from that's good.
School after school and keep him until I got back, so that wasn't the issue. But it was more that, say, because I wasn't in a position to not work and just pursue it, and I have my job back there in San Diego, so even if I get 24 hours notice on an audition call, I'm having to cover the shift, as opposed to when you live here, you can maybe just jet out of work for an hour, go do the audition, and then be back at work, which I didn't have that option because driving up and down was the entire day. So I basically had to lose money to come out of work, which, was never easy. And also just making sure it was okay for me to be off work and having to scramble with all those details, as well as get ready for the audition, which, obviously made the auditions probably not as effective as they could have been, because I have like a million other details that I'm working out before I walk into the room up until that point, when I should probably just be focusing on preparing for that audition. So
that makes it a task in itself, just to come up for one single audition.
Oh, definitely, because you don't get a week's notice usually.
And then it's like a big cycle, and then it's like, you're totally worn out because you're dealing with all these like things that a lot of people don't even have to consider doing.
And then what I'm usually choosing between is sleep and preparing for it. So either I go in prepared, but I'm on an hour's sleep, so...
Oh my God.
You're winging it because you can't, like, really connect with what you're thinking. Or I sleep, but then I go in not as prepared for the audition, usually is what would happen. Because in between, I'm fitting and driving up here, and 2 hours of, can you take my shift at work? Can you, making sure that I'm not going to come back to no job.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of thing.
So then you decided to move up here. Just because it was easier, because you were starting to get more auditions?
I was studying in a class in San Diego that did showcases once every 6 months, and I was at a point where I was getting a decent amount of response from those showcases.
Okay, good.
So I, was starting to feel I could do it in a bigger market, and also some of it was convenience, and two, because I came to the idea that I could put my talent out there as much as I wanted in San Diego. Short of being like, obviously there's some couple big professional theaters down there, but they tend to hire outside of San Diego. They don't tend to use their local actors. I know that it has started to change recently, but in general, you don't walk up to, say, the Old Globe or the La Jolla Playhouse as a San Diego actor and get hired, or even get an audition, much less get cast. So, so I wanted to be somewhere where if I was doing local theater or doing a smaller film, or that all those things would be steps more to exposure and more to someone maybe, being able to see my work. Because in San Diego, it's very rare that someone from LA is going to see your work, unless you're like, 16 years old and they're willing to give you a chance, without having seen you in something, or, they might have some belief in your potential. But you hit a certain age and it ceases to be belief in your potential, and then it becomes belief in what you have to offer.
How did your son adjust to moving up here?
It has been hard on him. It hasn't been. I talked with him before I made the decision. It was an idea I was playing with, and I've always been wanting to be up here, but I always felt that San Diego was a much better place to raise a child. And I came to a point where I just felt that the choice was really in front of me in a big way at that point, and I did mention it to him, but not as like this official, hey, we're moving to LA, how do you feel? I just kind of started informally mentioning, like, I was thinking about, and he came out and was really supportive, and he actually cinched the decision for me, because he came out and was like, Mom, it's your dream, you have to follow your dream, it's okay if we go, and I think the time he said that, I don't know if he realized the realities of what it would be like moving, because then when we moved, it was like, yeah, it's your dream, but I don't like this city, And luckily,
that makes it tough.
Oh, yeah. And luckily we're close enough to San Diego that he can go back and visit friends, and he is making friends up here, and he's slowly adjusting. But I still do get him to San Diego as much as I can, and he's old enough. He can take the train, and he has friends, and like a family of his friends have known him a long time, so it's not something where I can say, hey, can you guys meet him at the train station and make sure someone's there, I want to make sure he's getting off with someone there. I'm not going to put him on a train if there's not someone at the other end.
I'd hope not.
Like, oh, we'll figure it out when you get down there, obviously. So he has good, good friendships that way. And we're in a good school district, so, and where he can walk to school, we're half a mile from his school.
So how do you balance doing family time and then doing acting?
It's really tough. I always feel like I'm shorting something, no matter which way I go. And I try, ideally, every week I strive for this. It's not always perfect, but every week I strive to have the way I spend my time to be where I gave equally to both, where I feel like I've spent time with my son, and I had dinner with him, and we did something fun, or we spent at least a set amount of time where we're just hanging out, not we're in the house and he's doing his thing and I'm doing my thing. I'm home and a lot, and that happens all the time, but more that we're actually like spending time together, or going to a movie together, or doing stuff like that. I try to factor as much, I try to put as much of that in, and that comes naturally. That I want to be there, and that I lean towards first. So if anything, if something gets shorted more, it's the acting. Like, I may not work on a scene for class as much as I know that I should have, because I am still trying to give to my son. I don't want it to be a situation where I neglected him to get to where I wanted to be, and I read biography after biography of people who were single mothers who ended up being successful in this field especially, and you do find that to a degree. What happened was, there were a period of years in there where I wouldn't say neglected, that's going too far, but where they did choose the career over the child to get there. And I look at that and I say, well, who am I to say that's wrong? Because in the long run, their child has, as an adult, has had probably opportunities they wouldn't have had their mother not succeeded. But at the same time, in the here and now, I can't picture.
That's just it. You're always going to, there's always different ways to do it. So the thing is, though, is you're going to hear a lot of criticism from people saying, no, you need to have a steady job, you need to have a steady income, he needs to, and what do you say if people say that?